Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here as always. Today we've got a really special guest. We've got the CEO of NFTrade, Ori Levi, and we're going to be talking all about NFTs. We're going to talk about the marketplace market and basically everything related to NFTrade and the NFT space. So Ori, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excited about this one. It's been a long time coming. So, if you wouldn't mind kind of kicking things off, maybe give a little bit about your background, maybe how you got into this space.
Sure. Yeah, my background's in digital marketing, but I've been reading a lot about different digital marketing strategies in some forums. Some of them were more shady than the others, and Bitcoin came up. That was 2012, and I kind of immediately picked it up. I mean, I did see a couple, usually people say they saw it and they left it, and a few years later it hit them back. But
Hmm.
luckily for me, it kept hitting me back. And suddenly my brother was asking me about it. And I was like, all right, that's it. This thing is there's something in it. And
Hmm.
so I got in Bitcoin quite early. I didn't work throughout my entire career in the crypto blockchain space, but I did start a website in 2013 that helped onboard new people to this ecosystem, teach them about the space, what's the best wallet, and so on. Um, and yeah, I've been involved in that ever since. In 2016, um, I've started. Well, I was involved in a PR marketing agency that's main focus was crypto and blockchain, and
Hmm.
it is now one of the biggest companies in for that in the space called Market Across.
Hmm.
And yeah, I got into NFTs. I mean, when I first met NFTs, it was 2017. I didn't really understand the technology behind it as
Hmm.
my and the whole crypto kitties thing
Yeah.
didn't I didn't really get it that back then. And 3 years later, I really got into the tech behind it, and I realized that this is something that's probably going to change the way we interact digitally. And so we decided to go heavy into it.
That's awesome. And so that was then, I guess, how NFTrade was born as a marketplace offering that's cross chain in nature. Could you give maybe people the elevator pitch for NFTrade and what it's all about?
Yeah, so actually, I'll go from the beginning.
Hmm.
I didn't just think of let's do an NFT marketplace. It was more about the need for a swapping feature
Hmm.
that we couldn't find. Because basically, the first use case, and probably still the most common use case, except for collectibles, which we all know are not going to be as much of a big a deal in the future, but something that's definitely going to last is the game items.
Hmm.
And game utils. So those are the first thing that I was looking at was comparing them to the game items that we have today. And like as a Counter Strike player, when I get some weapons that I don't want or that I already have, the first thing I want to do is swap them or sell them, right? But selling, we have that ability on all our other marketplaces, but the swapping feature didn't exist. So that's where actually NFTrade started. And and then we faced the other problems that we thought needs fixing, which are the expensive gas prices on Ethereum and the fact that a lot of marketplaces don't support any other chains. And so that's when we decided to become some sort of the aggregator of all the blockchains and all the NFTs and have one place for all these NFTs to interact.
That's awesome. Could you talk about how the swap feature works and like what tangibly that would mean for a user maybe who's never heard of it?
Yeah, so basically, if you wanted to swap NFTs before NFTrade existed, and now I think there are a few other platforms that offer that solution, you'd have to trust them. So you'd look for someone on a Telegram or a Discord channel and basically tell them that you have this NFT and you'd like to swap it for that NFT. And you two would have to basically send each other those NFTs and trust that the other person will do the same. And so we have made that process fully decentralized, trustless, where you interact with a contract that is combining this swap. And so, yeah, you log on to our platform, you see your list of existing NFTs, you select which ones you want to swap, and you select which ones you want to get in return. It could be any NFT. And basically, the user on the other end would get this offer and decide if they want to accept it, decline it, or counter offer on it.
So this works kind of like, I mean, and this might be a niche example, but the first thing that comes to mind for me is like the barter and trade mechanic in RuneScape, for example, like a massive multiplayer online game where
Mm-hmm.
you kind of propose items that you'd like to trade. You've got something that you want in return. The other person can accept or decline. Like, could you imagine this mechanic that you've built or this the system that you've built around this being used in games? Is that the idea?
That's definitely the idea. And I think that a lot of games that are already building their own kind of mini marketplace in game are looking to use our APIs, which are still
Mhm.
not public yet, but we are working to release it during this year. So it will be very easy for any game to implement these features and to customize them for their game specifically.
That's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, of course, the marketplace is useful to have, and that's no doubt. And there are great examples of that. But these unique features like swaps directly are super helpful for like the utility of NFTs as in-game items and other things.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, how much inspiration did you take from? I mean, obviously, OpenSea is the undisputed, kind of leader in the NFT marketplace world. How much inspiration did you take in building NFTrade from what OpenSea has done?
I'd say a lot, definitely a lot of inspiration. I think we combined inspiration from OpenSea to inspiration from CSGO swapping websites to
Hmm.
inspiration from a few others. There's definitely lots of inspiration from OpenSea. We kind of tried to make it as more e-commerce as possible because these are digital items and they're very similar to any item that you shop for online, and that's the kind of thing we had in mind when designing and thinking about trade.
Hmm.
But yeah, we got to give the respect to OpenSea. I mean, they were there when no one was, and as many problems as they may have, they are still the leaders in this space, and we give it to them for all for the breakthrough that they have done in that sense. No
Yeah,
mistakes
definitely.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I think right now it's one of those things where users are very, especially in the Ethereum space, and we talked about this briefly before we started, right? Users in the Ethereum space are very attached to OpenSea. Maybe that's because that was their first platform in NFTs, and there's something to be said for that. When you use a platform, when you're a new entrant, you kind of are attached to that. You understand how it works, even though it might have some issues. What are some of the things that you've been focused on at NFTrade to differentiate yourself or maybe make the experience even better for users, when compared to OpenSea or just for someone brand new coming into the space?
So we definitely want to simplify this whole onboarding process. These are things that you can't really see yet on our platform, but we
Mhm.
will have things that will make it for the anyday user a lot easier to get into this space without risking their privacy and the decentralization. Because a lot of times when we try to make things easier, we compromise for decentralization. Basically, take take it from. So we try to keep it as decentralized as possible while really trying to better the experience. It is currently really difficult to get on board. And I think that you mentioned earlier, a lot of users are still attached to Ethereum. I think Ethereum is great, and again, they are the ones that made this whole breakthrough in that space, and
Hmm.
everyone's copying them, copying the EVM technology, using it, even though some blockchains never didn't even want to create an EVM chain. They are creating it in order to get some traction because no one wants to use their non EVM chain. And so I think that they have that place in history, but I think that the world should also be ready to move on to something that's a bit more scalable
Hmm.
and without, again, without interfering or without ruining this decentralization. So there are lots of different chains that are still decentralized, yet do offer way better and much faster and much cheaper transactions. And
Hmm.
they should be looked at. I'm going to name Avalanche because they are the ones that I feel out of all the EVMs have done the best job at decentralization
Hmm.
while still having a very stable chain and a very robust ecosystem. And I think that their community is great. And
Hmm.
so Avalanche has definitely done things well. And I think users in general should kind of realize that Ethereum is king in many different, but not everyone can afford $100 transaction fee for each transaction.
Hmm.
It's insane, I think,
Yeah.
and it won't allow this space to grow. I've had a call today with a very interesting project that's trying to sell NFTs for something at around 50 to $60, and users are sometimes uh, thinking twice before buying them because the gas fees are $100, and so it doesn't really make sense financially. And this is something that needs to be solved immediately. And like you said, there are people are afraid to move away from those chains they're familiar with.
Without a doubt. And there's a general reticence for people to go to another ecosystem they don't fully understand because I think they're maybe scared that they will not have the same opportunities or they will make a mistake somehow because there are some pitfalls when you move to a new area. And I think even from like the builder side, from the marketplace side, or from a utility like yours, there is distinct there are distinct challenges with supporting a multi-chain product like this because there's a lot of moving parts and you have to keep track of a lot of rapidly changing protocols. Like, what's your approach to that? Do you have sort of an ongoing cadence with some of these projects to make sure you're up to date?
Yeah, so it's definitely a challenge, and I was talking to another project today that's told us that they're looking to have NFTs on multiple chains, and I asked them if they're crazy. Why would they ever do that to themselves? If they're one game, keep to one chain. Like, don't do this to yourself. I don't have a choice because we are here to support multiple chains. But if I could, if everyone, so yeah, definitely there are many challenges, especially when we're looking at non-EVM chains, because EVM chains are quite easy to integrate and they kind of function the same way. There's still a lot of difficulties, but not as much as what we're trying to do now, for example, which is trying to integrate Solana. Everything works completely different, and just putting it all in one marketplace is a mess. But we are hopefully going to be successful in that in the next few weeks, and looking forward to see how that works.
Yeah, the NFT space in Solana has grown quite a bit, and I was actually planning to ask you if you're planning to introduce support anyway. So when it comes to when it comes to the swap feature, and this is where things get kind of crazy, and I completely agree. Do you anticipate the swap feature being able to function across chains as well, like long term, even as you expand out of the EVMs and things like that?
Yes, the answer is yes. We do have that already in the works as
Hmm.
well. I can explain a little bit about how our cross-chain system is going to work. Basically, we take the original NFT
Hmm.
on its original chain, and we lock it in a smart contract, and then we mint a new NFT on the other chain where it's the user has requested, and that NFT can always be used to redeem the original. And so, yeah, that's basically how it works, and that's going to allow actual swaps between chains seamlessly. Um, it's going to take a little while. It's going to take. Actually, we've seen some cross-chain solutions already out there, and people are not in a rush to use them.
Hmm.
And I it's kind of hard to take your BAYC Bored Ape and put it on some cross chain where you don't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
It's scary, definitely is. So I can see why these things are not so popular yet, and hopefully they will be, especially when we're going to see cheaper NFTs being introduced in the markets. Because right now, um, everything seems to have a very high price tag, and I think that's going to definitely change soon. Where we're going to see more $5 NFTs around.
I would hope so. I mean, I think there's a lot of interest in like the profile picture type projects and variations therein in art where you buy it and it's a collectible, it's an investment. I would anticipate there's going to be more and more commoditized NFTs, things that are utilities in their nature, in-game items and things like that are going to be more broadly used in this type of swap feature. That's when we start to see real tangible adoption of NFTs for broader use cases.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really exciting stuff. And so for the rest of 2022, I know you talked about Solana support, cross-chain swapping. I'm sure just generally keeping up with the rate of change in the existing protocols that you have. Are there any other things you can share about what's on the books for 2022 for NFTrade?
Yeah, well, we're about to launch our launchpad, which
Nice.
is um, a place we're going to host very exciting new projects at a pre-sale price. So users who are able to participate, holders of NFTD will be able to participate in those launches. Another thing for the holders of NFTD is that during 2022 we are going to introduce fees, because right now it's we have zero fees on all transactions, but we are going to introduce fees, and some of those fees will be used to buy back and burn the NFTD token.
Hmm.
And that's another exciting thing that's happening quite soon.
Nice.
Um, yeah, we're going to open a premium library, basically a gallery, sorry. Basically, we're going to curate artists. We get a lot of requests from artists to showcase their art on NFTrade, and we just thought that it would be nice to have it on a separate, more curated platform other than
Hmm.
the regular marketplace. And so we're working on that, hopefully with a 3D VR experience to it. And so that's something that's going to come out as well. We have Tezos integration coming and some
Hmm.
other chains and Near protocol as well. And
Nice.
so all these are going to be added soon. Yeah, I'm very bullish on Near. I think they've been showing great progress, and I think that 2022 is going to be the year of Near, actually.
Very interesting. Yeah, I am a fan of their general technology approach. It's been a long road, I think, to realize some of the goals that they had, but it's starting to come together. So that's a
Right.
really interesting viewpoint. Um, the last thing I wanted to ask you, actually, and what you were saying about the future and sort of curation and that whole concept, there's always this like we've talked about already. There's a balance between supporting decentralization and providing good user experience. One of the big things that I see in this space is the the prevalence of copycat collections, but not even copycat collections, which are in some ways fair game, but more so um,
Fake.
fraudulent collections. People
Yeah.
putting up and saying, "Hey, I am this artist," and one of the value props for NFTs have always been, I can verify that the artist that created this is the legitimate artist, and I have a one of one or whatever. Is NFTrade thinking about maybe a way to help instill confidence that you're buying an original and maybe verifying artists and having some on-chain component there?
Yes, so I think it's an issue because
Mm-hmm.
it does remove some sort of decentralization to the whole
Yeah.
thing. And we have been verifying collections for the sake of there are hundreds of scammers everywhere on every platform, and so it's really hard to avoid them if without some help from the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
But we are connecting with a third party that's it is a decentralized company, obviously, but we know that they're going to do the best job at verifying artists, and so we are going to implement that technology that they have, and which is basically more than just a regular verification. It's a very long process of verification that they'll be doing. I think it's necessary. As I mean, we don't delete any collection from our marketplace. This is our rule,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to keep things decentralized, but we will tag the ones that we have verified.
Okay, that makes sense. It's definitely it's one of the toughest challenges right now, I think, in this space, especially around expensive digital art. How do you give people that without saying, "Hey, we're a centralized verifier now that
Yeah.
you need to come to to verify your stuff." So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. And so, final question: where can folks engage with you, with the team? Where can they find sort of NF Trade's ongoing announcements and things like that?
So we are mostly active on Discord, Twitter, and
Mm-hmm.
Telegram.
Okay,
You can find us there. Just look for NFTrade. I'm sure you can easily find it.
I'll link them up.
Uh, yeah.
Excellent. That makes sense. And do you have a sort of a forum, or what's the best forum for people to ask questions slash give feedback on the product?
I guess it would best be done on Discord just because it's easier to track, and we have multiple channels where they can find the best channel for them to raise their ideas. We're really really open to ideas where we've been, and we will be listening to the community. That's the first thing I think that we're doing all the time. Happy to hear feedback and to adjust accordingly.
Fantastic. That sounds perfect. Ori, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us on the show about this. I know I've talked about NFTrade before, but this is the deepest dive that we've done on the show here. And I want to thank everyone for watching. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'll make sure Ori and the team see them. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Until next time, folks, cheers.